If you or someone you know has diabetes, you may have built up an extra supply of test strips and lancets. That's where we come in. We'll buy the supplies that you don't need and resell them to those in need to prevent waste. Help us make diabetes management more affordable. Visit us at teststripswithaz.com.
All right, we have the Skull Crusher on the program, Josee Storts. She will return to action next Friday, September 6th at Invicta FC Phoenix Series 2 in Kansas City. She will take on Helen Lucero. How are you, Josee?
I am doing amazing. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and it's great to have you here before your second professional fight. You made your pro debut a couple of months ago for Walkout FC. You got a triangle choke submission early in the second round. That's a pretty nice way to start your pro career, right?
I would agree. Thank you.
Talk about making your pro debut. Did it feel any different with it being your first pro fight? Like, it certainly wasn't your first fight ever. I mean, you had 4 amateur fights before that, but did it feel any different considering the stakes were a little bit higher?
It did, only because I like to psych myself out for things, unfortunately, sometimes. So knowing that it was my pro debut, knowing that you couldn't take it back, it was going to be on your record forever. People put a lot of more hype behind it than an amateur fight. So just given that, I actually had a panic attack the day of.
No kidding.
So yeah, but it's fine. But it's I'm not one to get nervous. Like, I don't get nervous. I'm pretty confident in all aspects of my life. And then going into that, I was like, wow, what is this? My heart's racing, and it might have had to do with all the caffeine I had after the weight cut, but either way, I got a little more nervous than normal, I would say, but I mean, as soon as I'm getting my hands wrapped, I'm in the back, my coaches are there, I mean, everything just seems to fall into place for me, so I can usually calm down pretty quick, and I just feel at home, settled, knowing that, I've trained hard for this, and I get to go out and show off my skills, and do what I love. So even when I do, freak out, it usually doesn't last long. So I was pretty excited the whole time.
Is that typical for you heading into a fight, or is that the first time that's happened to you?
That was the first time. Even for my very first fight, I was like, oh, like, whatever, it's a fight. Well, what's going to happen is going to happen. You've trained enough. So it was different. I didn't quite know how to deal with it. My amazing fiance was there to help me, and he was like, it's okay, like, you're good. Just, you got to talk yourself through it and know that you've trained, you're prepared, and whatever's going to happen, what's the worst? You lose. So it dissolved quickly, but I definitely was not used to being so nervous. I think it was just, the platform and the hype behind it being a pro debut. So.
Well, not to put any extra pressure on you, but the platform is going to be a little bit bigger this time around. Being with Invicta, it's going to be on UFC Fight Pass. Have you mentally prepared for that aspect?
Oh, yes. I think about it all the time. Don't worry. I have come to terms with, that's part of it. You're going to, go be in the UFC, and everybody's going to be scrutinizing you. Everybody's going to be watching you. And I just think mental preparation is key. I've been doing it for, months now since my last fight, just preparing for. I knew quickly that this is going to be where I was headed. I didn't want to stay local, so I knew that my dreams were big, and that to, keep up with that, I would have to know that the scale would be bigger every single time I fight. So I prepared, and I think I've overcome the demons of nervousness. I mean, there's no point, so why not just enjoy the process?
So let's go back to a simpler time,
yes,
because it's sort of a rite of passage for me to ask these questions, and it's maybe a little redundant for those watching, but I love these stories. They're always different. They come from so many different places and perspectives. So how did you find this great sport of ours, and what got you into the gym the first time? Because not a lot of walk into an MMA gym and then just say, you know what, I want to fight somebody.
Yes, that is correct. I was just reflecting on this the other day because I was like, I don't think I knew I wanted to fight when I walked in there. Like, I don't know when the turning point was, but originally when I first went into an MMA gym, I was like 15, 16. I was 16, and so my dad had to come sign a waiver for me. So he came in and dropped me off, and they kind of took me under their wing and just started showing me, the ground game, and that's where I started, which is weird now that I'm mostly a stand-up fighter, but and I just fell in love with it. I was like, let's do it. Like, I want to train, and the first question they always ask is like, do you want to fight? Do you want to fight? And you're like, I have no idea. Like, I just started. I don't know. And eventually the answer became yes, of course I want to fight. And so they started training me for that. And as soon as you sign that first fight, it's a lot more real and you actually have to start doing good. So they kind of just took off. I definitely didn't go into it thinking that this would be the passion and the dream, but as quickly as everything started happening, I just didn't stop loving it. So I was waiting till after my first fight to know if this is what I wanted to do, and I absolutely fell in love, and I was like, I belong in here. This is it. So
as a 15 or 16-year-old, what inspired you to get into the gym and start training to begin with? Was it just something about martial arts that fascinated you? Were you watching fights? Like, what got you in there as a 15, 16-year-old?
None of the above, actually, which is weird. Usually people grow up watching fights and dreaming about. That wasn't me. I didn't really know anything about the sport for a while, except my brother dabbled in it a little bit. My dad always watched fights. He's the one that's always like, oh, like, this guy's fighting. And I'm like, who is that? And he was like, come on, like, why are you in this sport? I was like, I don't know. And so he's the reason, actually, that I got into it. My brother kind of tapered off from it, so he was like, all right, let's get the other one in there. So he took me in just because I started kind of doing cardio, and he was like, you could be good at this. Like, let's go do this. And so whatever, like, I trust your opinion. So it kind of just took off from there. I didn't grow up watching it. I didn't really know anything about it, and then it kind of escalated. So, I mean, I'm glad it happened. I don't know where I'd be without it. So.
And now you're getting ready to make your Invicta debut. And I think
Yes.
Invicta is a super underrated promotion, by the way. They continuously put on exciting events, exciting fights. I think the atmosphere there is totally different than most regional shows.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think, it's great to see women and fighters that compete for that organization really get to show their personalities a lot more. How excited are you to be competing for Invicta next week and starting a relationship with them?
Oh, I'm so pumped. We've been talking about it forever. Like, what organization I want to go with. It's Invicta. Like, I want to go fight for them, please. And so when they finally sent us the contract and confirmed that I was going to be one of their fighters, man, I was pumped. We celebrated. We just freaked out, honestly. It's a really good organization. It's huge for females coming in. There's a lot of organizations that, use females in a certain way that isn't for their talents. And I think fighting should be about, obviously media and marketing, but I mean, overall your skills. And they have such tough ladies. Like, it's no short of the UFC. So it's crazy to be such a part of a great, promotion that promotes lady fighters specifically and has such a good name behind them. I've never heard anything bad about them. Their, president, Shannon, just any of it. It's all just really good and exciting. And I am so beyond pumped to start my journey with them. It's just, the next step on the way to the top.
Is this a one-fight deal with Invicta, or have you signed more of a long-term deal with them?
I actually signed a 6-fight contract with them. So,
Nice.
so we got a little bit of work to do. I said that I was going to be their golden girl of the division and, make my way through the rankings and see what I can do. So I'm pretty excited.
You get Helen Lucero next Friday. It's her pro debut. She found the sport a little bit later in life than you did, but she's obviously very tough. She's a finisher. What have you learned about Helen since this fight was presented to you?
Pretty much just learned that she panics. She gets backed up easily. She doesn't like it. She swings wild, and that's perfect for my technique. I keep my calm. I like to just stalk forward. I like to, jump in and out, just kind of do my own thing. I don't really like playing into other people's games. So, I think it's going to be a perfect fight for me. I think it's going to be an awesome showcase. If I plan on finishing her in the first, obviously, but if that doesn't happen, I have no problem taking the long run. I've seen a lot of, going the distance fights, and I love it. I love being able to showcase all my skills, all the time I put in. So either way, I'm excited. If it's a quick one or if it's not, I'm prepared. So be excited for a show.
When you close your eyes and you visualize all of this, because fighters, they think about the fight all the time, how does it typically go for you? How do you see it all going down next Friday in Kansas City?
I typically visualize all scenarios just because our coaches like to make sure that we're prepared for all scenarios. So they tell us to visualize everything that could happen, which I do. But most of the time, I see it, me backing her up, her panicking, swinging wild, shooting under, taking her down, and just beating the crap out of her face, and then it ending. I guess TKO is the nice way to put that, but
that was the most terrifyingly positive prediction I've ever seen. You were laughing, you were smiling, and you try to compose yourself and not swear, which is okay. You can say whatever you want here.
Well, all audiences here.
That's true. That's a great point. Now, if all goes well here, and of course you don't want to look too far ahead, Invicta has a lot of talent, especially in that division, a lot of names. I know Amanda Bobby Cooper has signed with Invicta as well. She's got a fight coming up next weekend in Michigan, but I know she wants to debut at the end of the year. Have you been looking at the roster, sort of eyeballing potential opponents? Does anyone stick out to you at all?
I have and I haven't. I don't like getting ahead of myself. I do like scoping out my prospects, though, so I think this tournament is going to be a very good indication of who I may be fighting next. It's obviously all 25ers, so whoever, it doesn't win, obviously, any of them could be my next opponent. I have no problem taking on anybody. I have extreme confidence in my skills, so I'm just pretty much excited for whoever they have for me, whoever's in front of me, to get to the top. I don't want to fight people that aren't going to help me on my path, so whoever they want, I'm ready for, and I just plan on running through the division, honestly.
I know Dana White said after the Contender Series when he spoke to the media on Tuesday that Shannon Knapp was in the building. She's been bugging Dana about hosting events for Invicta at the new UFC Apex. Dana says, we're going to do whatever we can to make it happen. So I think you signed on with them at the right time. How excited are you for the prospect of fighting in Vegas and probably fighting in front of Dana White sooner rather than later?
I am very excited. When we heard about all of the stuff happening with that she was pushing to fight in Vegas a lot and just share stuff with the UFC, I think it's a perfect time. I'm still very young in the division, I think. So just turning 21 a couple months ago, I think it's perfect time for me to keep growing in the sport and getting into it when I did. I think there's so much room for growth, and as the division or Invicta itself progresses, I think I'm going to be right there with them and hopefully just keep the ball rolling. So I'm very pumped.
You mentioned your fiance. You are engaged. Congratulations on that, by the way. Do you have a date set yet?
We do not. So we went into it knowing it would be a little bit of a long engagement. I'm still in school, so I am finishing my business degree right now. We have a lot of fighting stuff going on. We want to eventually move to Colorado or somewhere close to that. So we've got a lot of plans in the making, but it'll be a little bit of an engagement, and then eventually tie the knot.
Well, there you go. Josee Storts has a lot to be excited about. She makes her Invicta FC debut next Friday night at the Phoenix Series 2 event against Helen Lucero. And if you can't make it to Kansas City, you can watch all the action on UFC Fight Pass. It was a great chat with you, Josee. Before we let you go, let the folks know where they can follow along on this journey with you via social media. Any shout-outs, anything else you want to get off your chest, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you. Social media, you can find me. My Facebook is Josee Storts. My Instagram is Skull_Crusher_MMA. And then my Twitter is Skull Crusher MMA. So it's pretty much all, skull crushing. And then, as far as sponsors go, I want to thank AS Restoration and Roofing, Devin Schultz Photography, Venture Industrial Products, and Valentine Studios Creative Media. I also want to thank all my gyms that helped me mold me to who I am. Springfield Fight Club, obviously my home gym, love them to death. Chavez Striking, American Elite MMA, and Functional Concepts. And then also some of my training partners that have helped me a lot are Julia Avila, Christina Williams, and my fiance, obviously, Kyle Powell. So that's pretty much it for me.
Look at you. You are so ahead of the game, because most fighters, when you ask them for that stuff, they always forget sponsors or they forget to shout out everybody. You are ready to go. You're way ahead of the game. Thank you, Josee. All the best to you next Friday night.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.